Welcome to another episode of The Inquisitive Analyst. I'm your host, Marcus Utikang, and it's the show where we chat with business analysts and project managers about their challenges and triumphs, their ideas, and their contribution to their field. It's inspiring, it's upbeat, it's exciting, but most of all, it's inquisitive. My guest today is founder of #HireHigherEd. He has a PhD in rhetorics, composition, and information design, and he is a newly minted business analyst. That's right, a business analyst. Started from a PhD, became a BA. So please help me welcome to today's show, Eric James Stevens. Welcome, Eric.
Marcus, hi, thank you for having me. I'm sorry, my dog just started barking in the middle of that, so I'm excited to be here, and so is my dog.
So is my dog. No, that's good. That's awesome. I got a lot of questions for you today because you're quite a unique person. The first person I've found who actually has moved into business analysis from academia. So let's start off. You know, you studied ethical use of big data. Now you're enacting it, as you say. You come from this research-oriented background where critical thinking is really crucial as an academic, and learning how to learn is sort of at the core of academia, right? It's part and parcel. It's kind of like your modus operandi. So what gave you the incentive to make this acute turn from research into becoming a business analyst? Take us a bit through your story.
Yeah, I think that my story is different, and it's not one that I don't know can be easily, like, because it was very happenstance, is how I put it. It was very serendipitous. I lost my job as a writing professor at a university because of COVID last spring. Like right around this time last year is when everything was kind of happening. And I knew that I couldn't go into academia. Like I was just kind of like reading the cards that the job market was complicated anyway. COVID was not going to make that easier. Since then, there's been an estimated, I think 7 to 10% drop of higher ed jobs, which is about 440,000 jobs in the United States. And it wasn't going to happen. And so I knew that I had to show people what I was capable of doing. I had to be able to translate my experience from academia to an industry environment. So that's what I kind of set out to do, and did it in a way that I was just ready to pivot. I was like, the nature of who I am and what I studied in rhetoric was being able to go into a situation, be persuasive, and learn something very quickly and do something very quickly. And the way that I got my job, that I'm sure we can talk about later too, that the conversation went like I sold him on me as a person before I sold him on me as an analyst. And he saw the potential in what I could do as an analyst. And that's essentially how I got this job. I was just kind of hustling, trying to make my name on LinkedIn as an identity. And I came across someone who offered me a job as an analyst. And it wasn't until the second day I started. And after a conversation with you, because you were so kind to be able to, and doing that for me as well, just understanding what I was doing until a solid week into the job.
Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's right. You did connect with me and just ask me a few questions. I think that was before you got the job. You're just asking some questions on business analysis. So it's kind of cool. So before we get into the depthness of your job itself, how much of a challenge was it to learn SQL and Tableau? Because I know that's kind of the stuff that you do. What was your learning technique to learn that?
It was a very frustrating experience because of everything that was happening. I was just starting a new job that was remote. At the time, I was living in my parents' basement with my wife and 3 kids because I had my wife and I were both unemployed, and so we had to make other arrangements happen. And I just remember sitting down and saying, okay, you need to be able to have a functional understanding of SQL and be able to do some visualizations and things in Tableau, and kind of be able to have a good like 10,000 foot story about the data that we produce and what it does. And so I said, okay, I went on to, I think it was W3 schools, just kind of like went through each of those modules. And I was like, I hate every minute of this. I hated it because like when I was first talking with with Jeff, the guy who offered me the job, like he said, like, do you know how to code or do you know Tableau? I was like, no, I don't. He's like, you'll figure it out. Like, you'll learn that quickly. And so I was staring at the screen, and then I realized I needed a little bit more guidance. Corey Tutwiler, he's my supervisor. He said, try this Udemy course. I really like this one. And so I went and I did that, and I was just staring at it, and I said, this is dumb, and I hate it, and I hate it, and it's stupid, because I didn't get it. And I could understand that it worked, and that other people knew that it worked, and they could figure out why it worked. But I feel like I'm a pretty smart person, and I was staring at it, and I just didn't get it. And then I realized, like, okay, I need to be doing a little bit more in my job with the, not just understanding where the data is coming from and being able to query the data, but also being able to do some analysis on the data. And so we got me a Tableau license, and I just said, like, okay, I found another Udemy course, and I said, okay, I'm going to watch this on 1.5 speed because it's the most excruciating thing that I can't stand. Because I am used to being in a position where I know what I'm talking about in a situation, like in just in the circles that I'm in, and just something I wasn't getting. And then it wasn't until the fiasco of February, that we kind of call it. I guess I'm calling it right now in this moment, where just Tableau and like our data sources just kind of like started, like, something was going on. We didn't figure out what was happening. And we were just like, for 2 weeks, things were like, people were asking, our internal customers were asking, like, hey, we need some data and we can't get it. Why? And we're like, well, we don't know. Like, we'll see what we can do. And in the midst of that, because I also felt very responsible for that. Even though I was sure it wasn't my fault, I felt responsible. It just clicked, like, in the most real, frustrating way. It just clicked. And I wrote this query and said, it's like, hey, what if we try this? And Corey was like, yeah, like, okay, no, like, maybe. And then he came back later that day and he said, hey, I'm sorry for, and he's an amazing, like, I love having him as a supervisor. He said, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't look at this. I didn't think that you were capable of writing something this complicated at this point. I was like, I don't know how you did this, but like, it worked. And it just got to the point where I just, like, our goal was like, have me be able to take on all of the internal like data requests for like our marketing customers and things like that. And that was a 12-month goal that I had. A couple of weeks ago, I had like an impromptu, like, what's the word? An impromptu performance review. And they said, hey, you've hit your 12-month goals and it's been 5 months. You don't, like, clearly you're not a junior business analyst. We're going to drop the junior and give you a pay bump and like keep doing these things that you're doing because it is making an impact. And it's been exhilarating, just like for how frustrating it was to stare at a screen for hours and hours and not know what was happening, to being able to tell a story that nobody in the company had ever thought to tell. And it was proportionately amazing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of cool. But I think it's like with learning anything, you get those humps, you get those hurdles, you get oh, I can't do it. You keep doing it, and then one day it just clicks. It just clicks. So, and I know SQL can be frustrating. I just we don't want to get into that, but yeah, you're right, definitely. So you started this thing called HireHigherEd. Now it's hashtag HireHigherEd. It's spelled hashtag HIRE hire, and then HIGHER, the other hire, and then ed, ed. So HireHigherEd. What's that all about?
Excuse me. So like I said, I lost my job because of COVID. I knew a couple months in advance that I was going to be laid off, just with how things were shaken out. And so I started looking immediately for work in the middle of everything that was happening. Like right now, I was applying to just dozens of jobs. And I knew that academia wasn't in my future anymore. And that was a really hard thing to come to terms with, because leaving academia is akin to leaving a religion. That is, it is a cultural experience. Like your friends, like your family, like you, like it is a part of you, and you went to it for a reason. And even though you know that the reason that you went there isn't the real reason that exists anymore, you still cherish it, right? Even though you can find it frustrating. And I was just incredibly sad and incredibly depressed. And I knew that I wasn't the only person that was experiencing this. I was trying to reach out to my academic community on LinkedIn, where communication and networks matter for data, right? But academics don't get on LinkedIn. And so I was like, hey, I'll be clever. I'll do hashtag HireHigherEd. Like, hey, let's flood LinkedIn's algorithms with our data. Like, let's go and authentically connect. That's what I wanted to do. I set it for June 8th, 2020. And I said, hey, it's National Best Friends Day. It's very convenient, right? Go wherever you are at 12 o'clock worldwide, 12 p.m., go get on LinkedIn and connect for an hour. Like just update your profile, go endorse people authentically, recommend to people authentically, because you never know if you're going to be the connection that someone needs in order to find a new job. Even if you're not looking, you might be the person that someone knows. You just don't know. That's the hidden job market that we talk about. Had a lot of resistance to that idea, and it's a fun story to tell. Black Lives Matter erupted across the country. I knew that I didn't want to try to compete with any sort of attention with that, and I wanted to try to embed what was happening into this thing that I was realizing that I was building. And so I postponed it, and I just started hustling. I started asking career coaches. I said, hey, you love doing webinars. I love hashtag, right? How about you do a webinar on this day? I'll promote it, and then you promote my event. I got enough attention that I was able to do thought leadership panels, because I didn't want to set out and call myself a thought leader. I wanted to call other people thought leaders, because eventually someone says, hey, who's that guy calling these people a thought leader? Let's ask him questions too. And so I was able to put together just the most amazing people. We had 50 speakers from 8 countries. We had 250, 280 registered attendees. We had 19 workshops that were all free and 9 live streamed panels that everything was attended on average, like anywhere from 15 to 30 people that attended. All of it was for free. I put everything together in under 2 months while I was moving my family across the country to live into my parents' basement with a 2-month-old baby and 2 kids, other kids, and for less than $250. And for me, that was, you want to hire someone, this is who you're hiring. I could tell you about my publications, my presentations, my awards. I can tell you about all that, but it doesn't translate in the same way. I could spend time translating that. And that's my big message, is about a translation of skills, but I didn't want to. I wanted to show people what I could do. And it worked. Like, just like it worked. Like people came. It was like kind of like that field of dreams kind of feel, you know? And that's what led me to the job that I have now. I was reaching out to Jeff, the CEO, Jeff Patterson of Gaggle, asking him like, hey, you hire people for tech jobs. What do you want from when you hire someone? And he's like, I would never hire someone with a PhD. And let me tell you why. And so we chatted back and forth, and it was to the point where 3 days later, he offered me a job. I was like, all right, like I hear what you're saying. But my whole theme throughout that entire experience was that the most ethical thing and the most kind thing that you can do as someone who has a job is to be active on LinkedIn, because you just don't know when your connection is the one that matters. You have to strengthen that web. And also, you don't know if you're ever going to need it yourself. right? Like you don't, especially in academia. I saw a tweet, a guy, he's had tenure for 8 years, just got his contract ending in May. It's happening, right? You have to be active. And so I got a job and I said, I can't not do this still. I have to keep trying to help and trying to build this community. And so that's why I still try to be so active and engaging on this platform, because people need a community and I know how to help build one.
Actually, in talking about that higher ed that you did, I mean, obviously it took a lot of different types of skills, organizational skills and communication skills. But what skills do you think were key in transitioning from research into being a business analyst?
Could you repeat that last part one more time?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I just like to process that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, what skills do you think you use to transition from research from the PhD into a business analyst? Like what were the key skills that you'd say you needed to give?
Yeah, I think mhm.
If someone else were to do it, what would you suggest that they what skills would you suggest they focus on?
I think it's a great question. Um, I think that, and I'll go in hands down, and I'm going to be biased in every way that I can be, because that's just what's happening. I believe that academics make amazing analysts. Like, what does an analyst do other than process information to come to a conclusion? That's what a researcher is doing. They're processing data to try to come to a conclusion that in the academic circle, like it helps a certain population, or like it contributes to a field, or it does this. Whereas in an analyst situation, it's to make this project better, or it's to make this thing better. Like the difference is the subject of study and the audience. An academic wants to study the whole thing and write really academically about it to other academics who are pretend that they're going to read it. An analyst, right? They look at what is happening and they say, what is the problem? Articulate the problem for me. Like, let's figure out what that is. Who are our stakeholders? And what information do we need in order to convince them that this is the right path because of data? That is the core. And again, my background is rhetoric and persuasion and communication. So, and my philosophy is that everything is a rhetorical tool. Like, you can use anything for persuasion. The most powerful piece of persuasion is data. And the most powerful version of that is big data that has been just cleaned well and just formulated well to be accessible, that other people can access it, and all these beautiful things.
That's kind of cool.
I feel like I'm kind of going ranty there.
No, that's good. I think you really made your point. I think it's really important. At the end of the day, there's so many of these jobs out there where they're analyzing data. You know, just like you said, like a researcher is. It's just that as a business analyst, it's focused in certain business areas, right? So, but yeah, that's definitely key for sure. So in the past, you've designed and you've taught business and technical writing, right? You've also been a freelance writer. Have you found that these types of skills were an integral part of your role as a business analyst?
Absolutely.
Have they given you an edge in a way, sort of?
You know, I think so. And here's the specific example that I have. Because I think that, like, I could probably ramble for a long time about it. Here's my specific answer, is about curriculum design. And I think this is important for especially those academics that did a lot of teaching. That if you, I mean, and this is also assuming that you were good at your job, honestly, right? Curriculum design is how I approach a problem that I have as a business analyst. In curriculum design, I have a goal. I want my students to come away with this piece of knowledge. And I work, and it's called backward curriculum, it's backward design, right? So what do I need to do to make sure that they get that, they understand that? How do I structure my class? How do I structure the rubric that reinforces the things that I want them to take away? And I taught writing in a very different way than a lot of people did. But because I had it very structured in a way that a lot of people it's like an old school that people don't like, but it was built in a way that is agile. that it was designed specifically because I knew that I didn't have one audience. I had multiple audiences. I had multiple identities that wanted to use this thing as a tool. They wanted to go into their class knowing more than when they came away with. And everything that I could do could help them achieve that, even in the way that I designed the course. And so I figured out what was the need and what needs to be accomplished and how can I influence what's going on in that situation. And I work backwards from there. And that's how he's like, okay, back to, so this is how I need to manipulate this data set, right? This is how I need to this is how I need to present this information in a way that this audience understands, in a way that accomplishes this goal so that we can get this thing done so that I can accomplish this thing. And that is just that is a curriculum design, right? Like I want my audience to come away with something and to understand something. And so I build it in a way that that's what they'll do.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. I think writing is so huge in business analysis. It depends. If you're like a heavy technical writer, yeah, you need those skills for sure. But all business analysts need some degree of good, strong writing skills anyway. All right, can you take us through one of your typical days at work as a BA?
Yeah, I'll preface this with I feel incredibly lucky in both the company where I work and the position that I entered into when I came to work in this company. They identified me as someone who could learn on the fly and just tackle a problem. And they gave me space to learn and to do that. And so I don't know how typical or atypical the day in the life of Eric's business data analyst life is, but here's what I do. I sit down at my computer because it's a remote company now. I open Slack because that's our means of communication. I open my browser that has all my tabs ready that like tell me what I'm doing for the day. And then I open Tableau. And I just like, okay, like, and I have a whole folder of temporary files that are like, all right, this is my data source. Like, this is my workbook that I'm working with today, that if I need to make any changes that, okay, if in case I screw anything up, I can always go back to yesterday's. And so I just like a temporary April 14th, 2021. Like, and then tomorrow is going to be April 15th, 2021. And like, and so I go in and I say, all right, and what is the thing that I need to solve? I check to see if there are any data requests. I handle all the internal data that we have as far as the type of data that the customers produce, and being able to use that for more of the decision making on the customer side. And so I think like, all right, how do I understand that problem? Who do I need to talk to go do that? Because like while I'm thinking about this thing over here, about what I want the data to look like, I know I am not an expert in two things. What the application of that data, right? The familiarity of just like the culture of Gaggle, right? The company where I work. And then also how a customer is going to want to use that. And so I go and I say, okay, who do I need to talk to? Like, what resources do I have? Because I am a person that I need to connect with someone and talk through an idea. And it's exhilarating. The best compliment that I've received so far at work was when during that impromptu performance review was when people leave a conversation with you, they're excited. Like they want to be a part of whatever it is that you're talking about. That's a good thing. And so I go and I try to figure out who I talk to people. And I say, thank you for your time. Like, I appreciate this. A little trick, right? Insert here. Whoever you're working with, reach out to them. And, hey, whatever it is that you're think of, like if you come across a YouTube video, if you come across an article, anything that you think changes the way you think about the way you do your job, share it with me. You don't have to give me context. You can give me context if you want to. The more I know how you think, the better I can help you, the better I can persuade them to do the thing that I want to do. And so it's this, I absorb information and stare at a screen until it just kind of clicks.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's the best way to get your job done, man. Connect with people, connect and connect and connect, because you can only solve the problem with this so far by yourself, and then you need help. It's not that other people will give you the answer, no, but you need to talk to other people to get ideas on where to go next. I think that's crucially important, no doubt. Okay, so you've got the career as a BA. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention Elon Musk says that he hires a lot of people with PhDs.
I got to make a phone call. I'll
Oh,
be right back.
yeah. That's the way it goes. So, where do you see yourself as a business analyst over the next few years? And what's your planned workflow process, so to speak?
I think this is a different question that I'm not used to being able to answer in this way. Because context, since I've been 18 years old, I've moved 36 times. Like that's how many times I've changed my permanent address. And none of it is military related either. It's a lot of it academic related. Academics are very nomadic people. I am not used to thinking that far ahead. I'm so used to thinking about what does the next 6 months look like as an adjunct or as a lecturer? Like, do I have a year contract or a 6-month contract? And so for the first time in my life, I am able to think about what does a career path look like in a path that there actually is real progression. It's not pretend progression that happens in academia, right? And so where I see myself along this path, I think is very similar to the way that I got here. I'm going to absorb as much information as I can about everything that I can about this business. I'm going to go from there. Because for me, like right now, the joke is like my personality type is very similar to the CEO of this company. And it's a well-established company. They've been around 20 years, $25 million company. So the running joke with the CEO of my company is that we're going to keep Eric as long as we can.
Cool.
Because he's going to go somewhere after this. Like, and I told him the first like 2 or 3 weeks of my job, he said, how are things going? I said, this is great. Because what you have built is what I want to build. Like I want to build I want to build an ed tech company that uses big data and that does so in a very ethical and beautiful way. You have built that. I want to do that as well. And so I'm going to come in here and learn as much as I can from you. And he just laughed. He's like, yeah, you don't need an MBA. Just go get a job. Like just come and work as a business analyst. Yeah. And so as far as like that path, like I want to develop this data set that I have for external customers in a way that the company has never looked at before. My personal goal, right, is to double the company's revenue with ideas.
Cool.
I don't know if I can do that, but that's my personality type.
That's a good point.
And that because what is beautiful about business analytics, in the same way that rhetoric is beautiful, is that it touches everything. You can absorb everything about a business in that position. And so that's what I want to do, is absorb that. And like, I can see myself at this company for the next, 2 to 5 to 10 years, or longer, but I have to be ready to pivot.
Yeah, got to be ready, no doubt, indeed. So if anyone in the audience wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can do that?
The best way is LinkedIn. Eric James Stevens, PhD, LinkedIn, Google. It will probably get you there. That's the best way, and I hope that you do. I love doing one-on-ones with people. I'm starting to do like Thursday night 8:00 chats with people about my journey from academia to analytics, and it's been a lot of fun. And so I love talking to people. Please reach out.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, Eric. This has been very, very informative, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there thinking just like yourself. can I get into business analysis from my background? How do I do so? So thanks very much. It's been very, very informative.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Have yourself a great day in Oklahoma, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you as well. Thanks.
All right. Bye.